I've got quite a list for you. The top 20 things you would like most to see in the sequel to Cyberpunk 2077, that is Project Orion. So, I fed all your information, as varied as it was, into a spreadsheet, and there's still comments coming in all the time, but I kind of need to cut it off at a point, because right now it seems like the comments are just kind of reaffirming what's already come in, adding a few new interesting things, but what I've had to do, I've kind of grouped things into 20 categories, otherwise I would have had a list 100 things long, and each one would have been one vote from a person, that kind of thing.
So this way I was able to create a list of 20 things that kind of fit together, if that makes sense.
So at number 20, we have the interface. Overall, people seem to be pretty happy with where the interface is or was, and I don't think it's going to be a huge point of contention, but there were some very interesting points made. So things like basically seeing an actual implemented night vision in the HUD. Things like visual disturbances for being drunk or drugged. And a good few people expressed their interest in a more diegetic hub, like you kind of get in the Corpo intro, where you actually have stuff feeding into it, or maybe things kind of projected in the area, things like that. Make it hackable by enemies. These are just some interesting ideas that I didn't want to leave out. Coming in at 19, we have Cyberspace. This isn't a group of things, this is just one thing on its own. I couldn't really find anywhere to slot this in. But a lot of you agree with me on having a cyberspace that is more like what is in the books, something more like maybe Tron, something like that, a little bit more substantial. Like I said in my first video, a better, more explorable cyberspace with more interactions and kind of more time spent there, better fleshed out, overall better visually. At number 18 is combat. Generally speaking, people are pretty happy with where combat is now, but there were some good suggestions of how to elevate it even more, so, well, at least I think they were good, and they're definitely worth including in the list. Things like better enemy tactics in general, and AI, an overhaul in that area. Many people, including myself, found the endgame getting easier the more experienced you get or the better your character was. And many people suggested that making enemies a bit more scalable so your high-leveled godlike avatar doesn't get to walk through the game so easily at that point. Maybe that can be an option, maybe some people like it, but either way that was something you expressed interest in. And even more combat variety, a cover system, equal bonuses if you choose to go stealth route. And I think that's actually a really good point. If you go through a mission using stealth without killing anyone, you don't get the same XP as you would get from killing people. Also, a nice suggestion was dual wielding, and I would agree with that. Ever since I got Jackie's La Changuina Dorada, Jackie's gold pistols. I can't remember how to pronounce that. I wanted to dual wield them. Okay, at number 17, we have the questing system. There were some suggestions for improvements to the questing system. Career path quest chains, more gig variety in both type and approaches, more focus on heists was quite prominent. Detective functionality, someone mentioned, like they have in some areas of the game, a bit more of that. Quests allowing you to scroll BDs. I thought that was a superb idea. Obviously, pretty edgy idea, but I think a great idea. Also, a huge interest in playing as Trauma Team or MaxTac. Maybe even just via missions where when you get into one of their vehicles, you get to respond to the calls. A bit like when you get into the ambulances in Grand Theft Auto and you can run ambulance missions. I can't remember which GTA had that now. I'm not sure would it fit with the ethos of the game. It wouldn't make sense for a merc just to go around doing those kind of gigs. Maybe, I don't know, but I do still think it's interesting. Number 16. Okay, next up we have what I call RPG overhaul. People are looking for basically better fleshed out role-playing game mechanics, more flexible classes, a revisited skill tree, making tech tree a lot more viable again, and crafting more viable too. More defined archetypes like Rocker Boy, Media or Solo, and at the same time, the flexibility if you want to have something unique. A couple of people mentioned the job system from Tabletop as well. Number 15. Okay, next up, another overhaul, and that's basically weapons. People want to see more stuff done with weapons. Firstly, improved handling and modability. A bit more complexity on that would be great. A transmog system so you can visually customize it. Flashlights for weapons, light weapons, like, sabers, those kind of things. More variety of weapons, really. Now, I think there was a ton of variety of weapons in the first game. I think LMG's probably got the short end of the stick. Maybe things like crossbows and things would be interesting to add. Some people suggested. So, but more weapon animations and finishers, especially for melee weapons, or melee as I used to call it, as I still call it. So number 14, quality of life and immersion. So by quality of life and immersion, basically things that make you feel a little bit more in the game, like more pets, role-playing animations like I mentioned in my first video, being able to see the drinking and eating more than just at specific times in the game. You know, the first time you buy Jackie Wells, it's just a click and it's gone. Unceremoniously disappointing. You know, you want to see V drink that first Jackie Wells, right? But yeah, overall interactive immersion in the world, fully fleshed out vendors and bar interactions, a bit more immersive.
So, number 13. Mobility and functionality.
Now there were some interesting suggestions in this. Aerial combat and movement. Maybe this comes from previous marketing prior to the first game, I don't know, or from the source game book itself, I'm not sure, but aerial combat and movement, wall jumping and running, all that kind of vertical movement, mobility stuff. And also a really interesting suggestion, people would like to see cyberware become more functional, specifically the arm cyberware. Take mantis blades for example, imagine being able to use them to climb up walls. Okay, next up, number 12, player impact. What do I mean by player impact? Better, more impactful choices and interactions and consequences, all that kind of thing. See how things really do impact NPCs too, not in just a procedural way. Street cred having more of an impact, and a more extensive morality or stress or humanity system that can lead to cyberpsychosis depending on your actions.
Next up, ONS.
Cast. Obviously, there's been some requests for certain legendary characters like Morgan Blackhand and Spider Murphy. Returning cast is important to some people, for sure, but people would like to see V return in some kind of minor way. Some people would like to see V return in a major way as playable, but enough people also said they wouldn't want to see V return in a major way that it kind of cancels it out, if you know what I mean. But there are plenty of people that would like to see V in a minor role, maybe as a fixer, maybe somewhere in town, as an Easter egg, whatever. They would like to kind of have a little bit of a tribute paid there.
Okay, so number 10, we're finally into the top 10 here. And if you're enjoying this video, I would really appreciate it if you could hit the like button down below. If you're not subscribed and you'd like to, that would be great. You can go ahead and subscribe, completely up to you. And for those of you that would like it and have requested it, just to let you know, I've enabled memberships again. The join button is there below. If you want a little badge next to your name and maybe, you know, a few other little perks, whatever I can think of. If you have any suggestions on those, don't forget to let me know as well. I want to make it the best value proposition I can, if you know what I mean. So number 10, this is the first big interest, and this is in there being other interactive elements and mini games, things like that. I'll explain. Like the arcade games, Road Trace and things like that, more of this, I think, is the short. Things like actually being able to play BDs, including the sexy ones, that's been stipulated a number of times. More mini-games that provide ways to earn money and rewards, like pachinko or gambling at the casino or running drugs for people, things like that. More boxing tournaments, yeah, that would be great. Gyms and shooting ranges that give you bonuses for training. I think that's actually a really neat suggestion. We saw that back in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, where you could go into the gyms and you could make yourself stronger, and going into shooting ranges is naturally a great idea for giving you a bonus to your skills for shooting. If you can kind of beat the scores or hit the targets well, it'll give you an increase to that area in your skill. I really actually quite like that suggestion. And again, one of my all-time top favorite things, but it's actually a kind of one of the minor things in the minigames here, is more arcades and playable arcade cabinets. Okay, on to number 9. The next thing is story. The general consensus again is the story was great in the first game. There are a few people who weren't happy with the whole kind of sword of Damocles hanging over one's head throughout the game. I gotta be honest and say, me included on that one. I mean, we have that in real life. And I left one thing out of this, which would have actually put story at the top of the list. And it's the thing I'm going to talk about at the end, so bear that in mind. But anyway, story continuation and continuity is hugely important. Better story flow and time pacing for the free time. Life paths done properly. Big demand for this. Basically giving truly different stories depending on your life path. More impactful choices. Although a few people request that, I think maybe people just missed how well connected and impactful the choices in the first game actually were, but still, more impactful, why not? More of what we liked originally? Yeah, absolutely. A longer story is being requested. I do know you can blast through the main story quite quickly because the game is wider than it is long, for sure. A lot of interest in the Corpo War. And a few people made this very cool suggestion, which I think would be a lot of work for CD Projekt, and that is the start of the new game being from where you left off the first game.
So that gives you, what, 5, 7, I think, roughly potential start points for the new game that will eventually funnel into the main game. And that will still be V that can then spread off again. I think that's a really exciting idea. I don't for a second think that logistically that is something that a games company is going to do. We'll have to wait and see. I would love that, absolutely.
Okay, number 8.
Okay, next up, and this is another very important one to you and me as well, and I actually didn't think about this in my first list, and it would have been on it and probably bumped something else had I thought about it, and that's AI. So a lot of people didn't like the first AI movie. People want more sophisticated police or NCPD. They want random max tack and cyber psycho encounters, dynamic events basically that are not stage set pieces. Mercs and bounty hunters that operate on their own AI routines and will hunt you down for credits when your bounty gets high. And a nemesis system where enemies who have been maimed or whatever will come back later. Let's imagine you hit somebody with a car but you don't finish them off, or you remove a limb in some way that they come back as an enemy later with a cybernetic replacement, or basically completely fixed up or fully bogged out. I think that would actually be pretty cool and would be very fitting with the game. Hey, you took my eye, I'm gonna take your foot, whatever. Overall, better AI for NPCs, and I think that's a given. I think, in my opinion, the one thing that is always going to be lagging behind, and we need a havoc moment for this, is decent AI. And I don't mean just having an AI chatbot put in there. I mean full-on AI routines where an NPC, and this is hugely processor intensive, I understand what I'm saying and asking for here. But AI routines where the NPC you see on the street is not just going to despawn when it goes around the corner. It's going to go into a building, sit down at its desk and work.
At least in the back end, programmatically, you're not going to completely render this stuff when it's out of view. Garbage collection and optimization is still important too, but the routines need to be running in this NPC's life. It may go on social media. It may have seen you fighting with the NCPD, run off scared and go and start tweeting about it. It may try and attack you and then realizing its mistake, run away and say, I'm sorry.
Not just in the face of ultimate defeat, stay there fighting. I hate it when NPCs do that. 10 NPCs attack you. They've seen you kill 9 of them. They're down to 10% health and they just stay there fighting to the end when they could actually try and run away. Things are getting better on that front. A bit more kind of, what's the word? Critical thinking and
some more self-awareness and self-preservational instincts, that kind of thing.
I always thought about how that could feed into your notoriety. People get to know you because they found out about you on the other side of the city because they've seen a video of you with your mantis blade taking on a cyber psycho as you're walking by, and they actually walk out of your way and look at you as you walk by. Real organic reality through AI, and that's what I call a havoc moment, because physics was crap before havoc did their thing and everything suddenly became movable and throwable and breakable and chuckable, and it really kind of just made games way more interactive that way. But we're still walking around with these NPCs with very basic subroutines compared to what we could have. When you consider where NPCs are now versus where they were, what was it, 20 years ago, thereabouts, when Half-Life came out in the late 1990s, and the AI there was, ducking in behind cover and throwing grenades and trying to flush you out. Look at the AI there versus the AI today, there's not a huge difference. You look at the graphics there versus the graphics today, there's a world of difference. So AI hasn't kept the pace, and we need some company to really be the front runner on this. You want to feel like you're in the Matrix at some point because, our bodies are going to fail us. I've gone on a bit too much about AI, let's move on to the next one. Sorry. Number 7. Romance overhaul. So, new deeper romance options are definitely highly desirable. As an individual subset of romance, it's scored very high. More flexibility, more options, more varied interactions, and no gender-based limitations.
To such an extent that it's practically a romance simulator you're looking for. But, my friends, I am not here to judge, and I'd be lying if I said I didn't like having well fleshed out romance options for my virtual character. So, I think probably fleshed out is an unfortunate choice of word. Another thing that slots quite well into...
Did I just say slots? I'm going to leave it in.
Slots quite well into being, a request based around romance is...
GTA 4 style partner activities. Yeah, I'm one of the minority that absolutely love that shit. Hey Nico, let's go bowling. I want that kind of real life stuff. More Joy Toys. And the ability to... I'm so mature, but anyway, yeah, more Joy Toys, sure, why not? And the ability to actually chat up NPCs as well. I think there's a few people that need to have an explorer on Steam and see what games are available because, yeah, I get it. You want it, it's high on the list, it's at number 7. But anyway, let's move on to number 6.
Running away? That's rich.
Number 6 is impressive because it is only one specific request. Unlike the other ones, which are kind of a lot of different grouped together things under a category, this is one specific one, and that's third person. When people say they want third person, I don't think they're saying they want third person and fuck off anyone that wants first person. I think most reasonable people say when they want third person is they want a third person option. Because I certainly don't want to be doing sniping in third person. And I like riding the bikes in third person. I'd like to be able to walk around in third person and see my characters. You go to the bother of making your character look awesome or whatever. You want to see that character in all their glory. Style before substance is the cyberpunk way. And not being able to see your character other than when you're on the bike or in photo mode is a bit of a limitation. Strangely enough, nobody mentions photo mode in their wish list at this point. Huh.
If I go onto Twitter or Reddit or somewhere, it's photo mode this. Look at this picture I took in photo mode, photo mode, photo mode, photo mode. Interesting.
Anyway, we'd like to be able to see our character in-game. Some people even suggested, whilst in cutscenes, they'd like to be in third person. I quite liked being first person in cutscenes. It was way more immersive. We're talking about the option here. So the option for third person, hugely highly requested, coming in hot at number 6. Number 5 is game modes. Now, game modes is a bit of a catch-all here. I didn't really know how to group these things together, but it seemed like this is the place to do it. And I'll start with the one that's most requested in this, and that's NG+. People want an NG+ game mode. I understand. The Witcher had it, other games have it. It works pretty well. It's not my own personal flavor of what I like to do. Again, the addition of NG+ doesn't counteract me not wanting it. This isn't a what you don't want list. And yeah, I think NG+ would be very important because a lot of people want it. And I don't have to use it as long as they've got it. Good for them. Also, multiplayer co-op, multiplayer modes, maybe, like GTA Online or heists, where you can select your class and group up with people. I think that would be pretty cool.
But I think it's important to add that this is as long as it doesn't detract from the single player experience, because a lot of people don't want GTA Online, and neither do I. We want a strong single player experience. And if it doesn't take away resources from a well-completed game to add a bit of a multiplayer functionality to actually extend the life of it a bit more, then more the merrier. It doesn't mean you have to play it if you're not into multiplayer, as long as it hasn't detracted from the main game. A bit like Mass Effect 3, I thought that the multiplayer in that actively detracted from the main story because you had to do stuff in that in order to get the fleet size up and things like that, and it became an integral, required part, and I didn't like the multiplayer bolt-ons on any of the Mass Effect games. I think Dragon Age Inquisition had some kind of... I don't know. Anyway, the Mass Effect games definitely had it, and I did not dig it because it was not my cup of tea. I just wanted to be immersed in the story and be able to 100% things from a story perspective. So I get that. So multiplayer is great as long as it doesn't detract from the main experience of the game. That's it. But a lot of other people as well want a better endgame. So when you do hit the end of the game, you can continue existing in the city. Now, the city always wins. If you go out in a blaze of glory, it doesn't make sense to have an endgame. And somebody had a great suggestion for this. Again, influenced by one of Rockstar's creations, spoilers from the Red Dead Redemption games.
Close your ears for about 10 seconds, but what about a Red Dead Redemption style ending where your kind of young apprentice takes over at the end of the game, and that's how the end game is played from their perspective? They put on your jacket and you can carry on playing as them. I think that would be great. Okay, you can open your ears again. It's all about once you're done replaying the main story, having some longevity. Now, number 4, we're nearly at the top 3. Number 4 is locations. So location is important for pretty much all of us playing the game, and some specific requests like city interiors being better fleshed out. More of them, improved, upgrade in interior locations. Again, a lot of people are requesting the ability to go in and out of every single building in the city. I think that's unrealistic, and I think that's also unimmersive. When was the last time you walked down your main high street and went into every single building, even the ones that weren't shops? Nobody does that in real life. Why would you want to do it in a game?
But again, this is your list, not my list, so I need to shut up.
I do agree in some more fleshed out and better interiors and longer interior quests where you may be stuck inside a mega building for a long period of time, working your way up as you're trying to reach the gangs at the top, fighting your way up for a while before coming back into the city proper. That would be absolutely awesome. Almost like a game within a game. I digress. So new city locations are again important, but a lot of you, and this outweighs the people that want new locations like that, would like to see it be in Night City again with new satellite locations like the Moon, Crystal Palace, and other places like that. And NC just being more fleshed out, and the Badland towns being more fleshed out. Mega buildings in Night City being fully realized, not just like a one floor type situation. More customizable homes and mansions, big request for that, and a re-enhanced focus on verticality and level design. And I think mega buildings is one place you can really do that. So yeah, in general, Night City, but larger, more detailed all around from interiors to verticality. So that was number 4. So here we go, number 3. Drum roll, please. Special effects are amazing on my videos. Gangs. Okay, one of my top 10. Glad to see it made it so highly into yours as well. But yeah, more gang variety. I think we do love the different varieties of gangs and we want to see more of that. Wolves, posers, clowns, vampires, all that kind of thing. What's very interesting is many of you told me about the source book and that I was actually fairly bang on that the gangs I was mentioning, most of them anyway, including zombies, were are actually in the source book. So Mike Pondsmith already wrote these things. So they could very possibly be in there. Very interesting. So that's what you'd like to see anyway, more variety. Gangs actually impacting the worlds by themselves, having more turf wars, and us actually seeing the impact, like shifting gang zones, things like that. They want to see missions impact gangs more impactful corpo and gang faction interactions, reputation really coming into play, conversation choices from joining certain gangs and factions changing too. Furries and exotics are hugely requested. I think that's cancelled out by the amount of people that have said they don't want to see furries. I know you fuckers think I'm a furry now just because I was mentioning people with like anamorphic heads. I was coming from a place of Stargate, not a place of furries, but anyway, whatever. A lot of people suggested starting your own gang or crew or corp or burger restaurant. I made that last one up. But yeah, hire NPCs for missions and actually have a gang. Maybe they can be hanging out at your crib. Crib? Fucking MTV 1990s. But anyway, this is where the magic happens. So anyway, gangs hugely requested. Number 2. Again, Night City, Cyberpunk, it's style before substance. And your number 2 is character customization. We want, I guess, to be able to make a very unique character of our own. Now, I don't know, am I just old? But I thought the character customization was bang on in the first game. I thought it was really good. But you insatiable bastards want more, as always. That's okay. So just to go into some detail, better clothing customization, accessories, jewelry, etc. Being able to customize the body more, making it fat, thin, more hair options and detail there. Having missing body parts, cybernetic limbs and body mods. This is huge for me as well. People want to see that. We see so many gangers running around with these fully borged out legs and arms, but people want to be able to do that. They want to go full Borg if they want. So overall, better customization there. More voice options, better character backstory options, more impactful clothing. What you wear shows a lot about you. Maybe you're dressed as a corpo, people will treat you as a corpo. Maybe you're wearing certain colors of a specific gang and another gang is going to respond to that when they see you. Any clothing that you see a character wearing should be lootable, kind of like Skyrim. I agree. If you see a character wearing certain things, that should be in their inventory when you off them, and you can loot it off them. I think that would be important. Maybe it's an engine limitation, but that's something we've had in Elder Scrolls where you can kill somebody and take what they're wearing. High heels done properly. Modders have been doing that, but I think it'll be important to see that done from a base game perspective. And that brings us on to number 1, the most requested thing. Now, the top 4 were within 4 points of each other. So it's safe to say that the top 4 were very, very close. And number 1, you've probably already guessed it, is vehicles. We want to see a lot more cars. We are petrol heads, it seems, in a big way, or should I say chew heads. So we want to see better racing, tweaked handling, tournaments like Carmageddon and Death Race. Customization is one of the biggest requests, and we saw it with the Rayfields towards the end of the cycle for the first game. So more of that, being able to change the color or even change bodywork on a vehicle. That would be great. People would love to see that anyway. So along with that, customization shops where you can actually take your car in to get it souped up or whatever, visually and from a performance perspective. More vehicle variety. See more NPCs on scooters and bikes. Yeah, we don't see a lot of that. They've got the cops on bikes, but we don't see a lot of other NPCs on bikes outside of set pieces. Huge request, and this is by far the biggest one in this, nearly half of all the other ones combined, and that's flying cars and AVs. A couple of people mentioned aquatic cars as well. I mean, okay, but flying cars is a huge request. I would love to see it myself, so yeah, that would be absolutely awesome. So your number 1 is vehicles. So just to reiterate on the top 10 one more time. Number 10, more interactivity and minigames. Number 9, more emphasis on story. Number 8, improved AI. Number 7, romance, improvements and overhaul. Number 6, third person. Number 5, more game modes like Endgame and multiplayer and NG+. Number 4, more emphasis on interiors and growth of the existing locations. Number 3, gangs, more variety, more impact, more interaction with them. Number 2, more character customization, style, clothing options, replaceable cybernetic limbs, things like that. And number 1, as I said, vehicles. More customization, better, more races, flying vehicles, all that stuff. So there you go, that's the top 20 things that you would like to most see, in addition to more of the same, of course, in the next Cyberpunk installment. I think that's a pretty good list, Tooms. Thank you so much for your input. Now, just onto that one thing that I alluded to earlier. If I'd added it to the list, it would have bumped story up to the top. I hate talking about this stuff because no matter what you say, some people will find some way to try and hang you. Some people will try their best to take something out of context if they've got a grievance with you. But I have to talk about it because you actually put it in your top 10 lists, is you don't want identity politics in general to spoil the story. Real world, everyday, modern identity politics. And those of us who have been very intimate with Cyberpunk 2077 know just how diverse a game it already is, but it's all done really well, in my opinion. The way a person looks or what their sexual orientation is not their defining feature, which is the point. They are more interesting, well-written characters. I mean, maybe this goes to writers, that people in the first game have bigger fish to fry. Placide doesn't mistreat you because of your race or gender. No, it's because he sees you as an outsider, a Rangian, a thing to be used. Nobody ran Judy Alvarez out of some town because she likes women. Nobody is boycotting Kerry's sales. Claire's situation has nothing to do with her biological identity. It's dark, it's future. No one's being lectured to like a lot of other games do. People do horrible things like scroll BDs of inflicting pain on people so that other people can use those BDs and experience what it's like to have been that person, or even scroll a BD of the victim so you can, like, there's some dark, nasty shit going on in Night City. Like Mike Pondsmith says, it's not something we should be aiming towards, and it's got no place for modern day things that really shouldn't matter to people anymore. So let you choose who you want to be. Let the characters romance who they want to romance, and there you go. That's pretty much your bases covered on that. The lever doesn't need to be pulled any more than it already is in an attempt to cause more division and controversy. We don't care. We just want more great story. We're all humans. That's all that matters. And I kind of feel like there's loads more to unpack here, but right now I don't want to make a video that's twice as long than it should be, and I don't want to take away from the top 20 things. Just leave it with the note that this is important to people, that identity politics do not take front and center stage in a game that doesn't need it, because it was already handled excellently in a lore related way, where the human body in the future is whatever you want it to be, or probably more appropriately whatever you can afford it to be. And it wasn't some ham-fisted cramming of modern day politics as certain consultants in the industry would advise other companies to do. So unbuckle your seatbelts and go for a stroll around the plane of time. We're not ready to land just yet. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed the top 20. Thank you very much for your contributions in the last video and for watching this one. I will see you in the next video. Stay safe out there, Tunes.